Montana Talks here. Live and local. This is Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
Talking about the issues that matter to Montana statewide. This is Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
Well, it's not just hypothetical anymore, is it? Yeah, before we could say this is what will happen if Joe Biden and John Tester take power. Now we know exactly what happens. I mean, we're on the brink of World War III. We've got inflation just gone crazy in the last 3+ years. But think about it from a Colstrip, Montana perspective. Colstrip, Montana, a mining town, a power plant town, an incredible community. By the way, later today, when I finally get time to put a story on our Montana Talks website, I'm going to share a photograph of what Colstrip actually looks like. You know, these fake, phony environmental groups and their buddies in the fake, phony liberal news media, whenever they show a photograph of Colstrip, they try to make it look really bad, don't they? They'll go there when the steam is coming out to make it look like it's a bunch of pollution coming out of the stacks instead of just steam that's coming out. I'll tell you what, a beautiful, what was it, near 80 degrees sunny day yesterday afternoon when we rolled into Colstrip for this roundtable discussion by Senator Daines and Governor Gianforte, a couple of CEOs in the House and local legislators, union leaders, etc. And man, I tell you what, perfectly clean, sunny skies, beautiful clean skies above Colstrip, Montana. In fact, I'll bet you there's an airport in Montana that didn't have as clean of skies above them as the coal-fired power plant in Colstrip, Montana had above them yesterday and frankly every day of the week. You know, one of the things that was most interesting, I'm going to save most of our Colstrip conversation for the 9 o'clock hour of the show. I'm going to play some highlights from that roundtable conversation yesterday. But one of the things that stood out, Ed Joyner, I was thinking we could call it the Ed Joyner Morning Show. Ed Joyner is a Rosebud County Commissioner. By the way, our producer Travis's brother is another one of the Rosebud County Commissioners there in Forsyth. But Ed Joyner, I don't know if you guys know this, but down south of Colstrip, not too far south of Colstrip, is the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. In fact, there's some Northern Cheyenne tribal members who work in Colstrip, and man, I'll tell you what, the money they make, the jobs that Colstrip provides, support a lot of families on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. But ever since Colstrip was in the power plant was first put in place, there's been air monitors on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation. Did you know that 40 or so years of those air monitors being on the Northern Cheyenne Reservation, I think that Ed Joyner was saying the alarm only went off once. And it wasn't because of Colstrip. It wasn't because of the coal mine. It wasn't because of the coal-fired power plant. It was because of some outfit in Billings, like a 2-hour drive away. That's why the air monitors went off once in 40 years. But look at all the hot air BS nonsense coming from these Democrat politicians and the environmental wacko groups that are pulling their strings. They straight up lie about Colstrip every day.
Securing America.
There are growing questions on the rules Ukraine has to follow with military equipment and weapons provided to it by other countries. NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says because the Ukrainians are facing attacks launched from Russia,
the right of self-defense includes also striking targets outside Ukraine, legitimate military targets inside Russia.
However, the U.S. does not want its materials crossing the border. White House National Security Council Communications Advisor John Kirby.
We don't encourage or enable the use of U.S.-supplied weapons to strike inside Russia.
Pentagon Deputy Press Secretary Sabrina Singh spoke about the issue during a briefing Tuesday.
Ukraine can be successful in its goals by continuing to take back its sovereign territory and using U.S.-provided weapons to do that.
Adding that each country providing aid can make their own individual decisions. Kevin Uretsky, Fox News.
Media Minute with Howard Kurtz.
Highlights and lowlights from yesterday's closing arguments in the hush money trial. Going more than 4 hours, as the prosecutors did? Ridiculous. Eyes were glazing over. They lost the jury. Didn't have to be that long. Having Robert De Niro hold a Biden campaign press conference when the president has been so careful not to inject himself into this, to me, that's a firing offense. It was so stupid. Both sides were selective and misleading. That's how it works. People who were there said that the prosecutor did a much better job than the defense did, but you can pick through all the details and so forth, and how much information can everyone absorb. And reporters in the overflow room were laughing at a lot of the anti-Trump digs. With your Media Minute, Howie Kurtz, Fox News.
This is where Montana talks. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
All right, we got the phone lines open for you, 406-294-0970, if you want to jump in on the conversation at any point over the next 2 hours. We've got one guest who's going to join us just for a quick few minutes here, a little bit later this hour of the show, but in the meantime, phone lines are open for you. Real quickly, the point that I was trying to make about how it's not just hypothetical anymore. Look, I was asking former State Senator Dwayne Ankeny in Colstrip yesterday, because he says it's finally starting to sink in Colstrip. You know, think about it. Colstrip. Rosebud County used to be a fairly Democrat-leaning county, right? Because of the union voters in Colstrip. Who used to vote almost solely for Democrats. That's not the case anymore, because they have realized that the Democrat Party is the one that is targeting their union jobs for removal. The Democrat Party is trying to shut them down. And so that's why the electorate has changed. But I asked Dwayne, I said, well, when did people really start waking up? He said, well, it's been changing over the years. 2015 was a big wake-up call when then President Obama pushed the so-called Clean Power Plan. That really got folks' attention, and that got a lot of these union voters to start voting Republican and to start breaking from the Democrat Party. And then, of course, hey, again, it's not hypothetical anymore. The Democrats and the environmental groups targeted Colstrip 1 and 2, and they took them out. And now they are targeting Colstrip 3 and 4, and they want to take them out. And if you take out the power plant, you take out the coal mine along with it. But it's also not just hypothetical anymore for the rest of us. I think the other reason why it's really sinking in for people in Colstrip and for people all across Montana is because and this is what triggered this thought. There's a headline at foxnews.com this morning. Biden's war on energy will cost American jobs and worsen inflation. And it's a story about this roundtable conversation featuring Governor Greg Gianforte and Senator Steve Daines. And so I think Montanans are already feeling the pain in their pocketbooks from the Joe Biden, John Tester inflation. And so when they hear warnings of how much more their energy costs will go up if Biden is successful in killing Colstrip, they already get it, because they're already feeling the pain in their pocketbooks from inflation. And so now it makes sense. They've seen the damage caused in the last 3 years under Joe Biden and John Tester's reign. And so they've seen the harm that's already occurred. And so they know just how much worse things can actually get if we stay on this path. All right, into the phone lines we go. Clint in Bozeman first up. Good to hear from you, Clint.
Well, you too. I've been listening to your program here for a long time.
Thank you.
And I really enjoy it. Of course, Tom and Shane, they went off here on Saturday, so...
I know, that's too bad, yeah. Well, Shane was on recently when Tammy filled in for me, so that was fun.
Yeah, it was. What I got to say is two things today. Number one, I don't know if most people know this, but Washington, D.C. is a federal enclave, and they allow anyone, aliens or anybody, to vote there. Now, most people don't know that, but that's a fact. Fox News said it the other day, I wanted to say that. And the next thing I wanted to say is this. It's about the coal. You take the coal that's coming in out of Wyoming and stuff, goes through the state of Montana, and every county that it goes through, the railroads are having to pay taxes to that county. So when the coal quits running from these various different places, you're going to see that the counties are going to start shrinking up because of lack of tax base, which in the eastern part of Montana now is their tax base is very, very bad. And so the bigger cities and stuff on the big bill created money through Yellowstone County and Gallatin and of course Missoula to help pay for the teachers and the infrastructure there in eastern Montana. Now, people don't realize it, but they're messing with fire here. They're messing with their own economy. These politicians. I don't have much use for any of them anymore, Aaron, because they lied to us. You know, and when a bill comes into Washington, D.C., at the Capitol there to be voted on, they got all these amendments on it. And these amendments are other bills that are hooked to the main bill to try to get it passed. And so a lot of people don't know that. And so that's what happens when it's like here in Montana. This last legislative session, there was 4,200 bills introduced to the legislative services to write the bills. Now, what's that saying to you about our legislators and senators? They're thinking about themselves and not the state.
Well, I think that shows that hey, they're highly engaged and they got a lot they want to get accomplished, a lot they want to get across the finish line. Maybe they need to better prioritize what they want to get across the finish line with too many bills. But I think that shows that our Montana lawmakers are engaged. I still think the biggest problem isn't this bill or that bill. The biggest problem is liberal judges that push their own agenda. And I mean, you talk about the industrial base of eastern Montana that has just been destroyed. I mean, look at these federal judges that were put on the bench by Senate Democrats, like John Tester and like former Senate Democrat Max Baucus.
No, you're right.
Don Malloy has helped destroy the timber industry in western Montana. These other Democrat appointees on the bench have ruled against coal and oil and gas. And then you got John Tester's buddy, Tracy Stone Manning, the eco-terrorist in charge of the Bureau of Land Management, ruling now against coal in the Powder River Basin, and also giving out perks to her buddies at the American Prairie Reserve to go up against our ranchers. And so that's why this Senate race is so critical. That's why these judicial elections are so critical here in Montana. All right, we got to take a quick break.
I'm Chad Pergram with the Speaker's Lobby. One of America's most famous preachers is now on permanent display at the U.S. Capitol. Lawmakers unveiled a bronze statue of Billy Graham. Graham was America's pastor, counseling presidents ranging from Truman to Eisenhower to Nixon, Carter, both Bushes, and Obama. Graham helped shape evangelical Christianity in the U.S. and around the world. Graham's statue depicts him holding an open Bible. Turn to Galatians 6:14. But God forbid that I should glory save in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, by whom the world is crucified unto me, and I unto the world. Graham delivered the gospel to more than 210 million people in 185 countries, but via his televised crusades, Graham is believed to have preached to around 2 billion people. More people heard the gospel from Graham than from anyone else in history. The statue is one of 2 in the Capitol collection from North Carolina. Graham's statue replaces the representation of late North Carolina Governor Charles Aycock. He had ties to white supremacy. With the Speaker's Lobby, Chad Pergram, Fox News.
Aaron Flint here with Montana Talks. After Tuesday's show, hitting the road to Colstrip, Montana. Major conversations taking place in a roundtable discussion led by Montana Senator Steve Daines. I believe Governor Greg Gianforte on hand, as well as industry representatives, union leadership, and more. We have got to save Colstrip. I will have the details for you on Wednesday's Montana Talks. Plus, we'll take your phone calls and more. Montana Talks, the show that cares about Colstrip and wants to hear from you statewide, 9 to 10, right here.
Serving the great state of Montana, from the peaks of the Beartooths to the banks of the Clark Fork River. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
All right, we'll get back to your phone calls here in just a few minutes. And Clint, thanks for the phone call. It was great to hear from you. Plus, I'm going to have a ton of highlights from this roundtable discussion in Colstrip yesterday. Some great remarks. I loved what Gary Perry, the state lawmaker out of the Colstrip area, had to say. He basically said, I hope Billings realize just how much you are going to be impacted if Colstrip is killed. And then he said, hey, what about electric power for Malmstrom Air Force Base and our nuclear missile silos? What do they do if they run out of power? How much backup battery power do they have? And look at what's going on in the world. Joe Biden's got us on the brink of World War III here. We might need those things. And they're going to need power. I thought that was interesting. And then I loved it. We've got cleaner air than Missoula, but yet people in Missoula want to lecture Colstrip about clean air. I was in Colstrip yesterday. Man, beautiful, clean skies above Colstrip. So that's going to be some of the highlights that we got coming for you. Great to have Dr. Dale Williams in the house with us. Dr. Dale Williams has Billings Last Diet, which is an ideal protocol system, and it's an incredible program. I personally went through his program about 6 years ago after I got back from my last military deployment, and I was able to take off all those pounds, but more importantly, keep them off 6 years later now. And all I do a once a month, 15-minute check-in with my diet coach, and it's been so effective. But, Doc, great to see you. Thanks for popping into our studios, because I've been seeing some headlines about this weight loss drug. Some not so friendly headlines have been coming out here in the last week or so about this weight loss drug called Ozempic. I don't know if you've been seeing some of this in the news.
Yeah, we've been tracking it closely because it's been gaining traction over the past several years. I mean, it's the Hollywood weight loss drug is the way it started out. Semaglutide is the generic name of this Ozempic and Wegovy, and there's several others that are coming out, and as I said a few years ago, there are going to be side effects of it, and it's proving out that there are some pretty serious side effects of Ozempic. One of them is it's not something that you can do and be done with to treat your obesity or to be overweight. Meaning you're going to have to, if you're going to start on Ozempic, you're going to have to continue to take it because it helps suppress the appetite. And so one of the ways it helps suppress the appetite is it slows the way the stomach empties, and so you feel fuller faster and feel fuller longer. Well, there's a side effect called gastrophoresis, which is a paralyzation of the stomach, and it's causing all kinds of intestinal problems. And so it's just not a long-term solution. It's not a healthy way to lose weight and keep it off the rest of your life.
Yeah. So, some of the headlines I saw, I think it was the UK Daily Mail last week, there was a story that apparently a huge number, like 20% plus of men, according to one study, were having problems with ED after starting on Ozempic. So that's one study that's out. And I know there's a study for everything, and that'll tell you. But the UK Daily Mail has another piece that just came out yesterday. The most bizarre Ozempic side effect yet. Some patients could turn to risky sex and gambling in a phenomenon experts call impulse control disorder. So apparently it's having an impact on some people's impulses in their brains, apparently.
Yeah, and that's you're messing with the way the body senses itself when you're taking a drug like this. And so it's artificially changing the way your body processes and responds to its environment. And so I've not read this study. This is one I'll go look up, but it doesn't surprise me because when you curb your body's cravings and desires, there's got to be other things that are going to be have side effects with as well.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I should say, by sharing this information, we're not trying to cast judgment on anybody who has used or is using Ozempic. There's diabetics who've used Ozempic. Yeah. In fact, when the Ozempic craze kind of came out, there were a lot of people saying, "Hey, you're driving up the cost for diabetics." But I think they've moderated that to a certain extent. But for some people, if they felt like they needed to use it for a short time just to pull some weight off, but to your point, okay. There's challenges with that, because what you have shown and proven with your program, and so many of our listeners across the state now, frankly, are benefiting from your program because you've now got a remote option. Right. Obviously, because our studio is based in Billings, I'm able to go into personally Billings Last Diet. But with your remote option now, our listeners across the state can do their meetings with your diet coaches, get their products shipped to them and everything. But what you're showing is that, hey, we can help you lose the weight, but maintain your muscle mass, maintain your bone mass as well, because sometimes you can lose a lot of weight, but you might be deteriorating your body.
So with Ozempic or the semaglutides, it is an appetite suppressant, which means you're going to be eating less. It doesn't mean the food you are eating is still going to be nutritious and healthy for you. And so you need to have a guide to make sure you're getting the nutrients that are needed to maintain your muscle mass, to maintain your bone density, to make sure you get the micronutrients or the vitamins and minerals that you need in order to stay healthy. And so, frankly, we have several people who are using the semaglutides, the Ozempic, who are in Billings Last Diet.
Oh, interesting.
And so I'm not a big fan of Ozempic, mainly because of the side effects that are there. But for those that feel that they need that help, or we've had some doctors who have referred people over to say you need to get a lifestyle along with the suppression of the appetite so that you don't have to use Ozempic or semaglutides for the rest of your life.
That's interesting. So even people, as much as you don't necessarily like these types of drugs, hey, if you feel you have to use it, if you back it up with your coaching and your program, now you're going to get the nutrients that you need. You're going to get the protein products, which are very tasty, by the way, protein chips, protein cookies, protein bars, shakes, you name it. And you're also going to get the knowledge for, okay, once you're ready to go off into the real world without being hooked on this drug for the rest of your life, you're going to have the ability to keep that weight off, but also have a healthy muscle mass and bone density as well.
And so I'm not opposed to usage of pharmaceuticals. I am opposed to pharmaceuticals for the rest of your life. So if it's coming, that's correct. And there are some times when you do for the rest of your life. But if you get to the underlying cause of the problem, you shouldn't have to use a drug for it the rest of life. So like blood pressure, it used to be once you were on blood pressure medications, you were told you're going to have to be on blood pressure medication for the rest of your life. Well, if you take care of the extra 30 or 40 pounds that had caused the reason for the need for the blood pressure medication, that you're not going to have to be on blood pressure for the rest of your life, and so medications for the rest of your life. And
that's what's so amazing about your program and your team of coaches is that you will see it when you go do your annual blood lab draws from your doctor. Or for those of you that go to the VA, I get my blood drawn every year, and you can see the numbers. There's people that they were taking blood pressure medication. They went through your program. They don't have to take the medication anymore. I've talked with diabetics who, certain type, obviously, who were giving themselves a daily shot. They had to give themselves a shot every single day. They had to give themselves a jab. They went through your program, lost weight. They didn't have to do that anymore.
So we just did what we call our graduation class, where those who have reached their goal and they're moving on to the stabilization phase and the maintenance phase. And he said the reason he started the diet, he was actually a remote dieter, and the reason he started the diet was because his doctor told him that he was pre-diabetic. So this A1C, which is a monitor of where your blood sugars are out over a 3-month period of time, his A1C was above 7. And he said, he told him, well, we're going to put you on some diabetic medication. He said, no, I don't want to do that. And so he said, I'm going to give you a couple of months to get it under control on your own. And then if you can't, then we'll put you on the medication. He didn't have to go on the medication. He took care of the extra pounds that he had. His A1Cs are well under 7 now, and he's doing great.
That's awesome. Well, it's so great when I travel the state and I meet our listeners that are taking advantage of your remote option where they can do remote meetings with their coach, just like you're doing a video chat with your kids or your grandkids. You can do a video chat with your diet coach. Yeah. So it's proven that this new remote option is working. Folks, check out billingslastdiet.com, or especially if you're elsewhere across Montana, call 406-294-6751, and they'll get you rolling, and there's some online videos you can watch and everything. But yeah, I tell you what, it's worked for me, and I wish I had heard about the program 10 years earlier than I did. And so, because it really is, it's a life-changing program. Dr. Dale Williams, Billings Last Diet, always good to see you. Are you still doing some Facebook videos and things like that too, if people want to attend some of the seminars remotely?
Absolutely. Yep, we can get you set up, and we have the seminars every Wednesday, so today at noon, and then next Tuesday is an evening seminar as well. But if you're unable to make those, we can get you set up with the information you need to start the diet, to learn how to lose the weight and keep it off the rest of your life.
Well, and like, hey, I've got a wedding to go to, a destination wedding to go to later this year, so I'm going to do it. Come see you for just a quick 2-week tune-up before that. But really, it's whether you're going to a beach or you're getting ready for the summer and floating the river or getting on the water. Really, for a lot of people, it's about being around for your kids and your grandkids, because you can see the health impacts immediately. That's why it's so great what you're doing.
And that's what we strive for, is to increase people's health and help get them in a healthy weight and keep them in a healthy weight for the rest of their lives.
All right. Well, Doc, great to see you. Thanks for popping into the studio.
Thanks, Aaron.
It's always a pleasure. Coming up after the break, open phone lines for you, 406-294-0970. Anything and everything you want to talk about here on Montana Talks, the show where you get to talk. You can also message us on the Montana Talks app as well. And then we'll get to our Colstrip coal roundtable highlights across the board, from the union leadership to state legislators, county commissioners, Senator Daines, and more, coming up in the 9 o'clock hour of the program. What should we talk about next? DEI in the military. What about that one? Haven't gotten to that story yet. All right, stand by.
Democracy 24.
President Trump took the stage in the South Bronx, in a blue state and an even bluer city. Thousands showed up. Many of those in line were both Latin American and Black Americans. We were able to talk to voters, and they said they are upset with the border because their families immigrated here legally. Others said that crime was a big issue, that they had changed their affiliation from the Democrat Party to the Republican. Energized voters like Anson Paul from the Bronx says the discontent within the Democrat Party is growing, particularly among minorities, and to not count them out.
This is just like a small microcosm of what's happening nationwide. You know, if the sentiment is growing pro-Trump here in the Bronx, hopefully it's the same thing echoing in Michigan. President Trump is narrowing the gap in the Empire State. President Biden has a lead of just 9 points, according to the latest Siena College poll. In the South Bronx, I'm Madison Allworth, Fox Business.
This is the Montana Economic Minute.
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Those words from boxer Mike Tyson ring true as you examine the budget priorities of our leaders these days. That's always been the case, but these days the potential punches seem to be coming from all around. The plan, as expressed in spending and budgets, is clearly to prioritize social spending. Entitlement spending continues on autopilot, consuming more than half of the budget. Big new programs addressing infrastructure, green energy, not to mention cancellation of college student debt. But getting hit in the mouth might change all that. Chinese ships are encircling Taiwan. Houthi rebels have shut down the Suez Canal. And Russian poison gas is being used next door to NATO in Europe. Does our defense budget acknowledge that? Another punch might come from the international capital markets should they suddenly turn sour on financing the trillions of new debt our Treasury sells to the world to pay for the things that taxpayers won't shell out for. I'm Patrick Barkey.
Brought to you by the University of Montana Bureau of Business and Economic Research.
Taking your calls live. 406-294-0970. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
We got a message from, I think it's Blue. Is it Blue, or did the name get cut off here? Anyway, got a message on our Montana Talks app from Blue in Scobie. earlier we had a caller say, why did they have over, all these thousands of bills that were introduced during the legislative session in Montana? And our listener in Scobie says, we had all those bills because we have a single issue bill requirement. So that was a message out of Scobie. Let's jump right into the phone lines here. Let's see. 294-0970 is the number for you. Tim in Billings is next up on the phone lines. Hey, Tim, before you talk about your topic of the day, can I run something by you first? Is that all right?
Sure thing.
All right, because it's your show here, so I just want to make sure you're cool with it. You know what I'm saying? Hey, so
not my show, man.
Hey, so I was in Colstrip yesterday, and we went to the round table, but then afterwards we did this fun event paid for by Americans for Prosperity Montana. We were at the Mulligan's restaurant, which is right there at the golf course in Colstrip. By the way, funny sidebar or cool sidebar, because of all of the money that comes in property tax revenue from the coal power plant, if you are a property owner in Colstrip, you get to golf for free. Free golf on a beautiful golf course. And so, and clean air too in Colstrip. But what I think you'll get a kick out of though is, so the couple that owns Mulligan's restaurant, they're a couple military veterans, husband and wife team. They both served in the Army and really nice folks. But they created their own seasoning. They make their own seasonings. They made their own seasoning salt. And so the Mulligan's pub seasoning in Colstrip, Montana is called Pixie Dust, which I just thought that was really funny. It's Jeremiah Sofer is the owner of Mulligan's. I just thought that was really funny because, the Democrats don't want us to get electricity from coal. They think that we can just, wave a magic wand and use pixie dust. But at least we've got some good pixie dust coming out of Colstrip too.
That's right. And if they made a sauce, it could be called unicorn urine. And the Democrats could use that to power all of their dreams.
But at least we found some worthwhile pixie dust. Yeah, because it's good seasoning.
That's right.
It was good seasoning.
That's right.
Well, what do you want to talk about this morning? What's going on?
Well, there was some, callers earlier talking about, why things aren't working. And I'll tell you why our government doesn't work. We no longer have a constitutional republic. John Adams, he said our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate to the government of any other. So when you have people who drive religion out of society, they drive God out of society, they can do whatever they want with people because there is no morality anymore. There is no arbiter of right or wrong. And the people who say, well, I decide what's right, society decides what's right, that's the savage nature of the animal kingdom. Animals don't know right from wrong. The lion doesn't care if it's eating an infant gazelle, an old gazelle, whatever. A human being would consider the killing of an infant horrific. Animals don't care. That's what separates us. So when you have people who drive religion from society, they have completely succeeded in destroying our country. So if you want to reclaim our country, dig into your Bible. That's really the only answer.
That reminds me, Tim, thanks for the phone call. That reminds me back, was it last fall when they were pushing $100+ million in Billings, where they wanted taxpayers to fund this $100 million+ aquatics facility, and then some of it was going to go a little bit here, a little bit there. It was going to go to parks, to city parks. And we had a guy that called in at the time, and he said he made us a similar point where he said, hey, what is the point of paying for these parks if we can't use them? And I thought it was an interesting point because it goes with what you said. How can a community not only have parks, but how can a community enjoy parks? It relies on restraint, right? It relies on a moral populace to provide safety and security based on self-restraint, based on moral restraint. But now that society is going a little crazy and removing that self-restraint, I mean, law enforcement can't be everywhere all the time. And so the reason you can safely enjoy city parks and public spaces, which, by the way, they can do that in a great community like Colstrip with folks looking out for one another. But look at what's going on in New York City. Look at what's going on in some parts of Montana right now. I mean, take Missoula, for example, where people don't feel safe taking their kids to a city park. So they pay all this money in property taxes in Missoula to pay for all these parks and open spaces. But then, as we heard from Sandy Vasica, why would somebody want to take their kids to the park when it's overrun by transients defecating in the water fountain? And so, again, when we have these radical leftists pushing these pro-transient policies, pushing these soft-on-crime policies, taking away this self-restraint, ties in with exactly what Tim in Billings was talking about. Tim, thanks for the call. Mike in Whitefish next up. Mike, what's going on?
Good morning, Aaron.
Morning.
I was just calling because I know that the big topic recently is that the Democrats might be losing the Latino vote. And I was down in very liberal San Francisco this weekend. I went down for a birthday party. I was at a bar, and this Mexican gentleman sat down, and we started talking, and he started talking about politics. And he said he's never voted in his whole life. And he said he's voting for Donald Trump. And that was just kind of just wanted to sort of share that. I know that that's kind of a big topic as of late.
Yeah, what was his reasoning? What did he take? Because we're seeing that in big numbers that more and more Hispanics are voting for Trump. That's why Democrats now are trying to classify Hispanics as Caucasians and as white people, because they're like, oh no, they're becoming Republicans. We can't consider them minorities anymore. We can't acknowledge the fact that minorities are fleeing the Democrat Party.
I guess the reasoning, kind of the typical stuff, gas prices and, safety concerns and just, they feel let down by the Democrat Party that feels like they owe them their vote, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's basically what this black radio host in New York City, Charlemagne, was saying. I don't know if you heard these remarks, but Charlemagne, the left-wing women of The View were trashing him because he refuses to endorse Joe Biden. Now, this Charlemagne guy, he still suffers from Trump derangement syndrome. Either that or he's just too afraid to say what he really wants to say, which is, hey, if we want to make America great again, if we want to help out black communities, Hispanic communities, help out our on our reservation economies as well, that you got to vote for Donald J. Trump. So maybe this Charlemagne guy is just too afraid to say what needs to be said. But listen to what he is saying.
Why do you think he's falling short among black voters? I think that, it's not even just black voters as you see. It's Latino voters, it's youth voters. I think my man Tim Ryan coined the perfect phrase when he said that, most people in America are part of the exhausted majority.
Yeah, most of the people in America are part of the exhausted majority. What are they exhausted by? Mexican drug cartels, the crime, the inflation, the high price of everything. The increasing war that we see all over the world thanks to this failed foreign policy. What is making Americans the exhausted, part of the exhausted class, right? That's a great question. Tom in Bozeman next up on the phone lines. Tom, what's going on?
Hey, Aaron, how you doing? I'm going to see Kevin today. I'll tell him you said hello.
Perfect.
Kevin Red Star. Yeah, I'm reading an article out of the Bozeman Chronicle yesterday. A national Democratic organization and abortion access advocates this week announced they're about to spend millions in state Supreme Court races with an eye targeted towards Montana nonpartisan contests. these national organizations, well, Saul Alinsky, the Pied Piper for these groups, years ago determined you're probably not going to get a plurality or majority support for our radical ideas. So even if you don't control the legislature or if you don't control the governor's office, if you could control the courts, you could.
You can control it all, I imagine. Hold that thought. We got to hit this hard break. We'll come back to you.
Your morning cup of Sean. This is the Sean Hannity Morning Minute.
The prosecution is spending so much time in the efforts to rehabilitate Cohen's disastrous testimony, and I think it just speaks volumes. They sound desperate. And the same with Stormy Daniels. They're trying to rehabilitate her image with the jury. And, I mean, to get to the point that there's so many lies that they realize that they have to rationalize, which is why the prosecution, this guy Steinglass was given the close for the prosecution, then says, oh, forget about Cohen. There's a mountain of other evidence. What other mountain of evidence? And if so, why did you bring him on the stand to begin with?
The conservative underground meets later today on the Sean Hannity Show.
Hey, are you ready to give your home a summer makeover that will make some serious waves? Well, Blinds.com can help with savings up to 50% off at the Memorial Day sale happening right now. Blinds.com invented the better way to get custom window treatments online and, of course, always upfront pricing. Now, no more salespeople at your door, inflated showroom prices. You can upgrade your window coverings. Now, that can be a minor project that has a major impact. Blinds.com, they make it simple and easy and affordable. And Blinds.com, they offer free design consultation, and they'll help you pick the perfect window treatments for your home. And by the way, you get unlimited window treatments installed for one low cost, and everything backed by Blinds.com and their 100% satisfaction guarantee. Shop Blinds.com's Memorial Day sale happening right now for up to 50% off, plus premium doorbusters up to 50% off now at Blinds.com through May 29th. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Saving you money, I'm Hillary Barsky. If you have a green thumb, did you ever consider that you can turn your crops into cash? Whether you have a small garden or a large plot of land, there are several ways you can create a side hustle from your gardening skills. First, you can start a blog. You won't instantly make money, but if you post consistently, you can start selling ad space on there. Or partner with brands and use affiliate marketing to make money off of your posts. If you don't want to sell your produce directly, you can create products from crops that you grew. You can make yummy pickles using cucumbers and herbs, or salsa and jam from fresh fruits and vegetables. Or you can make money off of your garden by simply selling what you grow. However, your garden has to be large, and it helps to be an advanced gardener who can consistently keep a garden going year after year. Lots of people have a hard time starting their own garden since there's so much to learn, but you can share your expertise through workshops and events and be paid for your efforts.
Is approved by Kyle Austin.
Brought to you from the Montana Hot Spring Spas, the hot tub company that your friends recommend, Studio. This is where Montana talks. Montana Talks with Aaron Flint.
All right, thanks to Tom in Bozeman for sticking around on the phone lines here. So, Tom, you were talking about Saul Alinsky and the radical left saying, hey, you don't even need to control the legislative branch or even the executive branch. You just control this one little branch and you can control everything. Is that what we're seeing that they're trying to play out here in Montana right now, huh?
Well, the justice system, look what's going on in New York. You've got a conflicted, extreme radical judge who is orchestrating a conviction of Trump on trumped-up fake charges, and the DA is a George Soros. George Soros is no dummy. He's a dirty dog, but he's no dummy, and he figured out a long time ago, if I could get the right judges, and if I could get district attorneys that are willing to, number one, let criminals go, number two, go after our political enemies, that's how we're going to take over this country. So when you have courts that can do political trials, political lynchings like a third world country, when you have courts like Montana Supreme Court that will reverse reasonable common sense election laws, things are totally out of hand.
That's right. They're trying to turn this all into a banana republic. No, you're exactly right. And they're doing that with the leftist mob on the Montana Supreme Court right now as well, which is why, for example, the ACLU is suing the state of Montana to push this radical transgender agenda, because they know they've got liberal buddies on the Montana Supreme Court who will push this type of crazy stuff. Right. I probably won't have time to get to it, but Congressman Matt Gaetz out of Florida, he held the Army Chief of Staff's feet to the fire and was calling out the Department of Defense for how they're pushing this radical transgender agenda, forcing females to have to share showers with men. And anyway, if you go to x.com/Aaron Flint, you can see a tweet that I shared from Christina Wong. And so anyway, but again, to tie it back in with Montana, that's what these leftist Supreme Court candidates and these leftist judges are going to try to force here in Montana as well. Kevin in Kalispell, want to get to you before we run out of time. What's on your mind?
Good morning, Aaron. Thanks for taking my call. I was wondering, with the topic of the Colstrip over there in the roundtable that you went to, whether or not there was any discussion on coal-firing the coal-fired plants there with wood, which is had studies that shows it brings down the overall emissions of adding wood into coal-fired facilities.
I didn't hear that topic come up in particular, but one thing that did get brought up is, well, Jim Atchison, I thought, made a good point. He's with the SEMDC, the Economic Development Outfit. He's been there 21 years, I think, now, fighting for Colstrip. He made a great point about how he wants to see Colstrip be not just a coal hub, but an energy hub, kind of like an all-of-the-above energy hub. And he particularly mentioned nuclear. Why not adding nuclear? And, I mean, look, down in Wyoming, they're doing that. You can take the same workers, the same facilities, and turn them into a nuclear power, to a small-scale nuclear. So why not have both? Why not have the coal-fired generators that are still there? And then why not also add nuke into the mix, just like they've added wind and solar into the transmission mix as well, right?
Yeah, I believe in all of the above strategy on that, but my particular interest is we've got 5 million acres of forest that is listed as high chances of wildfire, and we have absolutely no market for the wasted wood that's in our forests now.
So potentially use it as another energy source. All right, Kevin, thanks for the call. We're out of time, but we'll get to our Colstrip roundtable next.